Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Game of the Week. I'm Paul Hendrick along with West 6, and today a pair of teams headed in different directions. The Western Mustangs at 12-1, the Waterloo Warriors at 5-8, and West 6. Are the Warriors capable of matching up well against these Mustangs?
I think they are, but Waterloo is in a transition season. They've had some problems playing consistently offensively. Of course, they're led by that real fine freshman Van Koughnett. On the other hand, the Mustangs have climbed the mountain. They're here ready to challenge for a national championship. They've got a lot of firepower. Defensively, Waterloo will have to get back in defensive transition because the Mustangs really fast break very well. Mustangs, on the other hand, if they play their tough man-to-man defense, they are going to be extremely tough to beat.
Well, I mentioned the Western Mustangs at 12-1. Their only loss this season on the road in Guelph on January 30th. Here is their starting five.
David Rosebush is the communicator, will break down the defense with his penetration and makes the good pass in traffic. James Green, the versatile open court player, plays well in transition. Brian Doze personifies the intangibles, plays the minutes, plays very hard under the glass, and will take the offensive charge. John Steffelmeyer, the primetime player in Canada last year, leads the team in scoring and will set the tempo. Peter Van de Bovenkamp, the impact player, can play inside or outside, and I think that he's the player of the conference this year.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see what happens come postseason honors. Now, the Waterloo Warriors, as I mentioned, 5-8. They've lost 7 of their last 8 games. Really a team in transition, hoping to turn it upward. Starting 5 today, first of all, includes the premier freshman in the conference, perhaps the entire country. He is Sean Van Koughnett at 6'7", a true power guard, 20 points per game average this season. Number 10 is Robert Baird in his third year from Cambridge. The Warriors on-court quarterback, a strong passer. Over to John Hamilton at 6'4" and 205 pounds, rugged under the offensive and defensive glass. Chris Moore, a sophomore from Barrie Eastview, likes the rough stuff, and he can score as well. And number 43 is Dave Rosebush at 6'8", 220 pounds. He'll have his hands full with the likes of Van den Bovenkamp and, of course, John Steffelmeyer in the paint here this afternoon. So it's the Waterloo Warriors and the Western Mustangs, a battle of the W's. We'll be back with the opening tip-off in just a moment.
Game, Steve Foxcroft from Hamilton, Guy Cipriani from Hamilton, and of course Marco Perkunen from the Lakehead.
Good job, Wes. And just about set for the start of the OUAA Game of the Week. The Mustangs in purple, the Waterloo Warriors in gold. The opening tip, Rosebush back to Robert Baird, and here we go.
Very important matchup, Oberon on Baird to start the basketball game, and there's the dandy diaper. The outstanding freshman scores the first 2 points in Van Koughnett.
Sean Van Cassidy, as I like to call him. The baby-faced freshman could be the outstanding player in the country in terms of freshmen this year. There is the outstanding player in the country last year, John Steffelmeyer.
And Hamilton's on Steffelmeyer. Hamilton will have to play well in the colors because John Steffelmeyer is very good playing on the blocks.
Van Koughnett to Baird, all by himself, and he hits, and the Warriors have come out firing.
And when you play in this building, especially if you're the Warriors and you're having troubles with your offense, you've got to get the crowd involved early. And so far, the Warriors are 2 for 2 from the floor.
Brian Doze, inside feed pass, Steffelmeyer pumps, an easy 2, and we're tied at 4.
Now, the fans watching today, they'll notice that the wrapping on John Steffelmeyer's right knee, he's had some problems there, and we know that that knee can lock on him at any time. So, well, let's watch if John can last the whole game. There's another rebound by Peter Van de Bovenkamp.
Quickly up court, Brian Doze back outside to James Green. Inside, Doze lays up. Who's got the rebound? It is Chris Moore, and he'll bail out. You know, Wes, depending on the tempo and the score of this game, we may not see Steffelmeyer for the entire contest. Wednesday night versus Brock, he only played a half and wasn't pleased about being sat out, but head coach Craig Boydell obviously wants to keep his star player fresh and not hurt.
Well, that's important, Paul, but remember now, the Mustangs, after this game, will have a week to rest because they get the bye. They go directly to the Final Four for conference championship.
Traveling is called against Chris Moore. It's going to come back Western's way, and we welcome all our viewers, and specifically the Guelph Griffins and the Lakehead Nor'westers in Guelph watching this game. They'll be playing, of course, at 8 o'clock this afternoon, and our Friends as well from the OUAA East, and we'll get to that in a moment. 3-point play from James Green.
And the Guelph Griffins have had an excellent season this year. I'm sure I'm going to get some calls on picking Peter Van de Bovenkamp as the Conference Player of the Year, but I really feel strongly on that. He's played so well, and he's kept Western in there when John Stuffelmeyer was going through with his injury.
Robbie Baird for 3. He has 5, and we have got a shoot-'em-up kind of game here this afternoon. James Green lays up for 2, and he has 4.
We were saying about the firepower. The first 3 trips down the court, the Mustangs went inside. That time they took the drive from the perimeter with the guard through penetration. And Chris Moore comes to the perimeter as well. That's out of character, but if he can hit early from the perimeter, the Waterloo Warriors will be in great shape.
And Moore from 3. 10-9. The Waterloo Warriors in front. And the crowd loves it. Rebound back out to Moore, and here come the Warriors once again. Rob Baird, third-year player out of Cambridge. To Hamilton. Battles defensively and beats Brian Doze to the ball. Inside, John Stuffelmeyer caught reaching in, his first personal.
What I really like so far in the basketball game is the patience showed by the Waterloo Warriors. They're a young team. They lost a lot of veterans from last year, but they're being very patient. They dump it inside to Rosebush. So every trip down court, they're being selective. They've got good floor balance, and they want to get it inside.
Rosebush in amongst the Timbers, and Stuffelmeyer took it, left it for Van den Bovenkamp, and this is James Green. Traveling. Stuffelmeyer doesn't like it. He collided with John Hamilton. Mustangs turn it over.
He's a bit frustrated. But John Stuffelmeyer, we know what he can do. The primetime player, was the MVP in Canada last year, can go inside, can go outside, very strong off the board. So far, I haven't seen him favor that late.
Cam Thomas steps into the ball game now for Waterloo. He wears number 33. Number 3 is Van Koughnett. 27 points last Wednesday at McMaster. Hamilton back outside to Moore. Good ball movement here by Waterloo.
James Green is on Van Koughnett. That's a great matchup. Van Koughnet's got about 4 inches on it from the perimeter.
Van Koughnett, the nice jump shot. 12-9, Waterloo.
Van Koughnett is as strong fundamentally as any basketball player in this league. He squares his shoulders. He really can stop and pop very well. His follow-through is excellent.
Takes the baseline shot, intercepted by Van Koughnett. Rob Baird, bounce pass for Hamilton. Stutters his way in for a hoop. It's going to count. Draws the foul, and Van den Bovenkamp picks up the foul.
The Mustangs are not in this basketball game defensively. They're not getting back in defensive transition. We said at the start of the program that the Waterloo Warriors would have to really concentrate in getting back in defensive transition. They flipped the coin on me here. Waterloo is up-tempo game is there. The Mustangs are not getting back. Now, they'll bring Eastland in. He's the 6th player. Last year, Brian Doze was the 6th player. But Glenn Eastland is the 6th player, and he has played very well. And you might see him go on Van Koughnett when he comes in.
Van den Bovenkamp. Little razzle-dazzle. Takes it himself inside for 2. Does not get the hoop. Doze the rebound, and he gets it.
Mr. Hustle, Brian Doze, will do anything to win a basketball game. Great intensity, especially off the offensive glass.
Turnaround jump shot for Chris Moore, high and off the glass.
Peter Van de Bovenkamp's got Chris Moore, and so far I'd give Chris Moore the plus.
Chris Moore with 5 points. This is James Green. He too has 5. Gunning for 7, doesn't get it. Rebound comes down to the first-year player in Cam Thomas. Bright future for this Waterloo team. We talk about them struggling, mired in mediocrity, but next year this team goes instant credibility, and that's a major reason why. Van Koughnett for 3.
They are totally connected from the perimeter here early in the basketball game. They're doing what they want to do well. They're getting into the basketball player. That's the primetime player, and that's Van Koughnett. And, of course, they're giving him 1 shot, and it's 1 and done for the Mustangs. That's out of character.
Thanks to outstanding work under the defensive glass, Waterloo back down, and they've been converting offensively. That's way short. Easy pick-off for Stuffelmeyer. Across midcourt is Green. He'll take it himself. Further off the glass for 2, and a pretty hoop. 20-15.
Talk about penetration and making things happen. James Green can finish the break. And Van Koughnett, a 3-point play. He was almost on the bench with Coach McRae. They're up 10. with 14 minutes to go. And he hits sync, Paul.
23-13. In fact, he's the first officially to go into double figures. Has 10. Inside for Doze. The baseline hook shot. It's as simple as that.
But the Mustangs will not get them out of their game plan. If they want to look inside first, they'll do that and do it with consistency.
Hamilton. Oh, nice trip inside the Red Sea, and he converts.
When things are going right, they're going right. Hamilton put his head down, and he looked like a fullback going through the zero hole. I mean, he didn't even look at the basket till the last minute. But when things are going right, things are going right.
And it's still too early to predict what is going to happen in this game, but I'll tell you right now, the folks in Guelph are on their feet cheering on these Waterloo Warriors. A Waterloo victory today, a Guelph victory tonight. First place goes to the Guelph Griffins and home court advantage in the West Division playoffs, but there is still lots of basketball to be played yet.
You're right, Paul, and the strength of the Mustangs is their pine time, the bench. They have a very strong bench, much stronger than Waterloo.
James Green stops. Brian Doe's second chance. He doesn't convert. And there's John Hamilton. I talked about him at 6'4", 205 pounds. Very rugged, and he can score as well.
A little bit of an adjustment here with Chris Moore going to the outside and helping Rob Baird at the off guard. That should be Van Koughnett.
This is Sean Van Koughnett. On him defensively is James Green. WWF basketball, and Green picks up the foul. 12 minutes and 48 seconds to play in the first half. This first half has belonged to the Waterloo Warriors. They lead 25-15 on our game of the week.
If you don't like the tax, make sure you get the video.
Final game of the regular season. Postseason play will tip off Tuesday night on two fronts. In all likelihood, and this is in all likelihood, there is Sean Van Koughnett with 10 points.
Well, Paul, you know, when you break it down in the first 8 minutes of the basketball game, Brian Doze has 3 rebounds and 4 points for the Mustangs. He's leading them. But what's really interesting is from the Waterloo Warriors' point of view, they're 4 for 5 from three-point land, and 4 of the starting 5 are on the score sheet. Consistent scoring from the perimeter for the Waterloo Warriors. They've lacked that so far in this young season.
Changes in the backcourt for Waterloo. Mike Duarte and Jason Poag, and there's another three-point play from Sean Van Koughnett. And if this kid wants to drum up any support for the outstanding player in the CIAU, might as well do it here on television.
He is an outstanding shooter from the perimeter, but he can go inside. He plays tough defense.
James Green inside off for 2, and he plays it tough inside as well. The outstanding first-team All-Star guard, and I suspect will duplicate that feat when the teams are announced on Tuesday.
Jason Poag just went to the basket very strong and hard, and he beat James Green. That just goes to show you that the Warriors are really involved in the basketball game. Very active offensively.
VanLoon brought down that rebound, and his fan club in strong support here again this afternoon. Jason Poag.
We were saying Glenn Eastland is on Van Koughnett. That's a great matchup. Glenn Eastland is a very tough player when they play man-to-man defense.
Turnaround jumper off the glass is missed. Brian Doze rips that ball off the glass. David Ormerod. Bounce pass to James Green. Fakes. Called for traveling. Steve Foxcroft made the ruling, and Craig Boydell not really arguing with the call, Wes.
Now, it'll be interesting as far as the bench scoring. They've made some really significant substitutions here. We have Eastland on and Uhas, and we know that they can score very well. But on the other hand, can the Waterloo Warriors, playing people coming off the bench like Jason Poag and VanLoon, can they contribute on the score sheet?
We know Van Koughnett can. Only 2. His last 3 shots have been for three-point plays. He has 15.
He's the mission man today. He's got a mission. They want to upset the Mustangs. No question.
He, by the way, Wes, will be the subject of our halftime player profile. We invite you to stick around to watch that. Very interesting young man.
You really do pick them, don't you? When they're hot, and you get them on your halftime.
We've been fortunate this season. This is Doze. It's going to count. He'll go to the line to shoot for 3, and the foul goes to Van Koughnett. Doze with 6 points so far.
That's Waterloo Warriors' first foul after almost 10 minutes of the first half in the basketball game. Don McRae's teams normally work very hard defensively, but they won't let you get to the foul line. Not a lot of fouling.
The key for the Warriors, of course, Wes, is going to be to keep the momentum up if they can do it, because this team from Western is so explosive. Oh, big key is Aaron Kaya came down with the rebound. Eastland back outside to Juhas, and it's interesting as Craig Boydell is in place with what his starters have done. He's gone to his bench, and if the starters can't get it going, well, maybe the bench can.
Coach Boydell, he's very concerned, and he's got to be concerned because a lot of things are happening that are really out of character for the Mustangs. People are penetrating when they shouldn't be. They've got to watch people on the blocks. And of course, Coach McRae's got to be extremely pleased so far. When I saw them play McMaster on Wednesday, I really thought that the Waterloo Warriors, Paul, would have a lot of trouble today because they had a very poor game against the Marauders offensively. But they've come out, they're getting everybody involved in the offense. Great offensive continuity.
In a slight bit of a deep freeze, the Western Mustangs now bring it back up court. Second-year player from Niagara Falls, Stanford, Glenn Eastland, over to James Green. Rebound down to Robbie Baird. Up court quickly. Chris Moore goes in inside, lays up, misses. Cam Thomas battles for it, but it's Eastland who comes up with it. The steal from Duarte, and he hits for two. 32-19.
That's what I was saying about being aware and getting yourself involved in the basketball game. The Mustangs aren't. They're a step slow. They're not concentrating.
Green, baseline, stepped out of bounds. Steve Foxcroft, his eye on the line. Back into the game comes Vanden Bomenkamp and John Steffelmeyer.
Sorry, Paul, there's two ways to get your team back into the basketball game. Coach Boydell, he can either put a lot of people off the bench, get different people in, or change people's responsibilities. In other words, change your offense a little bit, maybe bring your defense up a little so that you get your players involved in the basketball game.
Chris Moore has time, hits.
Turnovers, the Mustangs 5 and Waterloo Warriors only 1 on the turnovers.
Please, folks, do not adjust your set. 34-19 is the score. Waterloo in front. Steffelmeyer is short. Gets his own rebound. In traffic, puts it up. He misses. Juhas battles for the rebound. Picks up the foul. Chris Moore had him beaten to the ball. Had position.
This is amazing when you can consider the Waterloo Warriors have played almost a flawless game so far. You see the way Chris Moore is in position. The perfect triangle, the defensive triangle for rebounding. That's what you've got to have, especially against these quick forwards for the Mustangs.
Chris Moore pondered, passes over to Baird. Baird inside, then out, back inside, puts it up.
And they've done this very well because Van Koughnett has been off. He's got a rest. Now he's coming back into the basketball game for Mike Duarte, that fine guard from St. Thomas More in Hamilton.
Aaron Kaya picks up the foul. And Rob Baird will go to the line to shoot. Earlier this season, in fact, last week, Western won the game between these two teams 83-70, but Waterloo, in fact, led at one point in the first half by 12 points. So what we're seeing here this afternoon is no surprise. The surprise will be if they can keep it up.
Well, it'll be interesting from the standpoint of conditioning for the Waterloo Warriors still to win this basketball game. They're going to have to get some outstanding play from their role-age players, of course, people coming off the bench, giving relief in supportive positions. 7 points for Baird. Ball goes out of bounds, and it's going to come back the other way. And you talk about Waterloo playing an almost flawless game. In fact, it has been that. And in terms of Western, I mean, just mistake plagued, and you would know that Don McRae was winning this basketball game. He's got his coach's face on here this afternoon. There's three things you look for from forwards: whether they make good decisions, whether they take good opportunity shots, and if there's good spacing on the offense. Waterloo Warriors forwards are outplaying the very talented forwards for the Mustangs. Steffelmeyer, pass inside for Juhas. The play might have worked. He was open. Juhas couldn't handle a pass. Goes off his body. Back it comes for Waterloo. But they're starting to see the open player. I'd be surprised if the Mustangs do not bring their defense up a little bit, put some more pressure on the inexperienced guards, especially when Rob Baird is playing the point guard. Van Koughnett with 15, tries to make it 17, and does. He is outstanding. Well, he can penetrate, but it's his size, it's his quickness, and it's his size. He's got great mobility, penetration. Coach Boydell has called a timeout. He's got to, Paul, make some decisions now, being down 19 points, but 1 to go. Oh, I got the time on, looking at the shot clock.
We got the timeout, about 7 minutes and change left to go. In fact, head coach Craig Boydell in his first season with this team. And in normal years, the Western bench would have to move this thing back out. Let's see if we can listen in. No one able to do so. We're having audio problems, but
offensively,
here we go.
We're going to be in high. Now, guys, they're pushing too much on the perimeter. We've got to get some backdoor up. So even if you don't have a backdoor, just go through. If we get it, fine. And you can also treat it as a push. Okay? So, Pete, if it's treated as a push, you just make sure you get down. Okay? Guys, slow and steady here. All right? We can't go to make up this lead in 5 minutes. We just have to start chipping away and gradually get back in the game. Okay? Got to run better offense. There's no hurry on the offense. Just get good cuts. Break them down.
Good advice, Wes.
Paul, when I was mentioning about good spacing on your offense, it's really important because if you want to play the high-low dump-down game, example, that last trip down the floor was Steffelmeyer at the high post trying to hit Juhas at the low post. He was about 2 steps too high. So it's the spacing, and 2 or 3 steps will really throw the rhythm and tempo off in your offensive continuity, and that's what's happening to the Mustangs. They're out of sync offensively because they're slightly out of position.
Aaron Kaya to Vanden Bovenkamp. Peter cuts inside, back out to the baseline. Vanden Bovenkamp, nice move, and he hits for 2. Peter would like to say hello to his grandparents watching from a retirement home in Leamington today. 2 big fans of OUAA basketball.
Well, he's had an outstanding season. He's such a competitor. Great gentleman off the court.
Moore's shot does not go. There is a collision. Glenn Eastland will be assessed the foul. And as we take a look at the board, the fouls belonging to the Western Mustangs. 7 minutes and 47 seconds to play in the first half on our game of the week. He won.
And what a contrast in basketball games. Last week we had the high risers, the strength underneath, the really heavy wide bodies inside. Today we've got the quick forwards. We've got a little bit of a finesse game going here. You're not going to see a lot of pounding down inside like last week, but that's basketball. Contrast and styles depending on your talent. Most important thing though, use your talent to your advantage.
VanLoon misses the foul shot and obviously disappoints. A capacity showing here from his personal fan club. Far side, so this is David Omerod. Nice play inside from the backcourt. He hits for his first 2 of the afternoon. 38-23.
Now that's the young man that can bring him back. He's such a great competitor. He makes things happen with the penetration, and David Omerod can play the tough defense and get the steals.
Van Koughnett, very dangerous. Jason Poag, yes, from 3.
And that's the difference. When Van Koughnett doesn't have the shot, if he kicks it back out and people like Jason Poag can hit from the perimeter, it's going to be a long day for the Mustangs.
Turnaround jump shot from Steffelmeyer. That basket is going to count.
Hamilton on Steffelmeyer. Big job for that young man, John Hamilton, to take John Steffelmeyer. You see he's at the mid-post position. He plays so well with his back to the basket, turns, stops, and pops for 2.
And while Hamilton has 5 points, Steffelmeyer has 6, hoping to make it here 7 with an even 7 minutes on the clock in the opening half. Doesn't go. VanLoon comes down with the read. Back up to Jason Poag. Quickly down the left-hand side is Hamilton. Moore for Hamilton, looks inside, goes back out to Van Koughnett. Van Koughnett to Moore. Over to Poag, and this Waterloo team obviously playing with confidence.
But in the passing game, they pass, screen, pass, go away. Everybody's hand on the basketball. Very little dribbling, a lot of passing. That's what you got to have.
Nice hustle offensively under the glass by Hamilton. Keeps it alive here for the black and gold.
But see the patience. Bogues resetting the table.
Van Koughnett inside. Moore pumps. Gets the choir and goes to the line to complete the 3.
When you show patience, you will be in a basketball game. If you don't rush your offensive set, if you make sure people are in the right position, and then a nice cut to the basket, puts on the brakes, a little head and shoulder fakes off the glass and gets the crier in and tries for 3 from the line.
Hamilton and Poag go back to the bench. There's John Steffelmeyer, the premier player in the country last year. Rob Baird and Mike Duarte back in for Waterloo.
What's happening on the basketball floor, Paul, is extremely important for a win for the Waterloo Warriors. But what's happening on the bench is more important. Coach McRae has got to get his people in and give his players rest, and so far he's doing a masterful job. People coming in off the bench have contributed, and they haven't missed a beat in their interchangeable parts.
Vanden Bovenkamp has 4, but right back comes Mike Duarte via the baseline. An easy 2.
When you get back in defensive transition, you have to pick up your man. You can't lose your man. He lost his man, and it cost him 2.
Steffelmeyer to David Ormerod. Ormerod round the horn to James Green. Green goes baseline, and Western has dominated in that fashion. Have played well. In fact, the baseline at either end of the court has been exploited. James Green with 11.
I'm just waiting for the Mustangs to bring their defense up a little bit.
46-29. 5 minutes, 25 seconds to play. There's Van Koughnett from 2. He has 19.
Well, if there's a better freshman in the league, I haven't seen him this year. Maybe you're right in Canada, Paul. He might be the best in Canada.
At least one of the best. St. Mary's has an outstanding product. Last, there's Bruce VanLoon as we take a look at what transpired previously. David Ormerod drives inside. And caught out of position was Bruce VanLoon.
But it was the screen set by Peter Vanden Bovenkamp at the elbow.
This is Vanden Bovenkamp. Steffelmeyer with Baird in his face. Misses. Rebound comes back out. That's Chris Moore.
One and done offense.
Duarte for VanLoon. Up over Steffelmeyer. Rebound back out to Vanden Bovenkamp. Good hard hustle by the 5th-year veteran. Brian Doze back out to Ormerod. Top of the key. Vanden Bovenkamp. Basket is going to count. I thought it may have been an offensive charge, but VanLoon picks up the foul.
And that was close. I didn't think that he got the shot off in time, and I don't think Coach McRae does either.
VanLoon goes back to the bench, and the fan club gives him a warm round of applause.
And of course, for the Mustangs to get into their up-tempo game, they must start to control the defensive boards and get that outlet pass, and away they go in their up-tempo game. They have not scored a lot of points in transition. So far, normally they score about 45% of their points in transition.
Sean Van Koughnett with the highway to heaven. He's having a hell of a game. 22 points. 4 3-pointers already.
And we've got you involved in the game, Paul. That's great to see. I'll tell you, the players, if Guelph are looking at this game now, they've got to start to get out on the edge of their chairs a little bit, because the Waterloo Warriors have played such a great half of basketball.
There's Duarte. This is from 3-point range. In fact, he hits from Hamilton, his hometown. 4 minutes and 8 seconds on the clock in this first half. It has belonged to the Warriors.
And the fans are in. I just looked over at one fan here on my right, and when that shot from Duarte went in, he sort of cringed and said, I can't believe it. And that's really what's happening. Great support in this on the score sheet from the perimeter, from the other players other than Van Koughnett.
Well, we take a look at the 3-point play, and we'll talk about that in a moment. There's John Steffelmeyer. Not as much power, obviously, going up off that right lame leg. He has all sorts of cartilage damage. There's a good look at Rob Baird. Van Koughnett and Chris Moore go to the bench. No fewer or less than 8 3-point shots here for Waterloo having counted in this first half, and that has really been the difference. Part of anyway. Brian Doze off the pass. Who's got the rebound? It's Bruce VanLoon.
Now, this is where the Warriors will have to be extremely careful offensively. They do not have a lot of firepower, so they'll have to move the ball and hit the open player.
Hamilton, second chance. Does not get it, but Waterloo will retain possession.
John Hamilton has started playing the strong side forward very well. He's starting to take the initiative and penetrating and trying to get the second opportunity.
Mike Duarte. 2 weeks from now, Wes and I'll pick our all underrated team, and I'll tell you there'll be several Waterloo players to make the grade. Sean Van Koughnett will not be one of them, because I suspect he'll be an all-star when that road comes out on Tuesday.
Well, we have a lot of fun picking that team, and the fans should watch that, because I think you'll see some surprises. But when you talk about all-star teams, Paul, it's going to be critical. That first team all-stars, as far as the OUAA West is concerned, boy, I wouldn't want to pick them, because there's a lot of players, Guelph, a lot of players in Western, and of course there's some outstanding players on those teams that are in the middle of the pack, like Gord Wood.
Dave Rosebush, I think, caught reaching in from behind. He'll pick up the foul. 3 minutes, 27 seconds to play in the first half. 55-32 for Waterloo. This is the scenario, folks. A Waterloo victory and a Western loss. Should it come down to that, Guelph would need a victory on home court tonight at 8 o'clock over Lakehead to clinch first place.
But what about the situation, Paul, if Laurier beats Brock and tonight, and the Warriors win here? I think Brock might be out of the playoffs. This is not a typical Mustang performance. Very scrappy, head down. They're not seeing the open player. And Coach Boydell is really concerned now, because he's made some adjustments and his players have not made the adjustments on the floor. They're playing a three-guard system now, Paul, with Eastland, Omerod, and Green, and two forwards with Van de Bovenkamp and Brian Doze.
So obviously, Laurier, well, big fans of the Waterloo Warriors here this afternoon, and both watching. Moore breaks through the press, stops, puts it up, comes up short, rebound, a swarm of Mustangs. Back outside as Doze fed off to Van den Bovenkamp. Over to Eastland. Down court, James Green heads inside, and Mike Duarte picks up the foul.
Mike Duarte is an athlete playing a game of basketball. He doesn't have a lot of quickness, but he has good position, and now he just reaches in and gets James Green on the foul. James Green's having an outstanding year from the foul line and, of course, from the floor. He's got to be considered strongly for a first-team All-Star. First-team All-Star last year, could repeat.
In his fifth season from Hamilton Hillfield Strathallan, hits the first of two. James has 12. Make it 13.
The other amazing thing so far in the basketball game is the Waterloo Warrior team have scored 55 points against what I think is one of the best man-to-man defenses in the league.
Rebound, Eastland. Van den Bovenkamp weaves his way in through traffic, lays up, comes up short. Ball goes out of bounds and in fact off Brian Doze, so it's going to come back to Waterloo.
But it's a one-pass offense for the Mustangs. One pass, the person receives the ball and then wants to go one-on-one with his defensive man, because for the Mustangs, each player wants to bring the team back and get into this basketball game. But they have to remember, it's the team that comes back, not an individual. Three-point play, the trifecta, Waterloo, 8 for 10. Great shooting from the perimeter.
VanLoon and the fan club on their feet. He's bumped. 57-34, the Waterloo Warriors leading. The Western Mustangs, however, capable of coming back explosive, and I'll tell you, they may be an entirely different team in the second half.
But they might not have a chance here if they get too far behind, especially with the patience that the Waterloo Warriors are showing. They'll take a lot of time off each trip down court in the second half if they get a big lead.
That's James Green who takes it for the team. Total fouls in this ball game, 9 to the Western Mustangs, 7 to the Waterloo Warriors. And
little push.
1 minute, 52 seconds to play in the first half. You're watching our University Game of the Week. 34, the Waterloo Warriors on top, just under 2 minutes to play to halftime.
And the turnovers for Western have 9 turnovers. The Waterloo Warriors have only 1 turnover, and they have an inexperienced team compared to the Mustangs. Coach McCray still, I don't think he can believe this. He's still concerned. But the bench scoring, the scoring from the Pine, the Waterloo Warriors 14 points, and the Western Mustangs have not scored from the bench. And at the top of the program, I indicated that I thought that the Mustang bench was stronger than the Waterloo Warriors. So they have not made yours truly look very good today.
But in any case, when you get a very young basketball team, predictability or unpredictability might be the norm. And who knows with this ball team, depending on any given day. And this brings something to mind come the postseason on Tuesday night. If the McMaster Marauders end up playing these guys, you know, when it is one and done in terms of playoff action, John Hamilton from three-point range, we could see Waterloo in Guelph or Western next Friday night.
Right on. That's a very good point, Paul. This game here for the Warriors, regardless of how it turns out, this is a confidence builder.
David Omerod off the glass for two, and Dave's been silent. He has 4 points. A minute to play.
But the Warriors' method of operation has just been perfect to the game plan set up by Coach McCray.
Officially, under a minute, 61-36. Back comes James Green. His pass is almost intercepted. There's a battle, and Glen Eastland steps out of bounds. It's going to be Western basketball.
Robbie Baird is going to get caught for a foul of pushing Glen Eastland out. But that last trip down the court gave you an example how they're not in the rhythm. James Green had a clear path to the basket on the penetration. He gave up the shot and he overpassed. But normally, Paul, you use the term when we get back into the last 5 minutes of the game, it's time for a gut check. You use that term very well. Well, I think the gut check has to happen in that dressing room at halftime for the Western Mustangs.
You know, getting on to postseason play, talking with some of these players, and, you know, it just comes down the end of the season. If you were able to win 3 consecutive games, providing you don't finish first or second, you're going to Halifax. So it's who's hot come the end of February. Consistency, of course, is very important. But in a one-game deal, anything could happen, as we're seeing here today.
You know, I think you should go into coaching. You're making some great decisions here, great observations.
Easy from this point. There's Chris Moore.
But again, the second opportunity. 26 seconds to go.
James Green, short from three-point range. Baseline off of John Hamilton. Goes out of bounds. Nice heads-up play by Glen Eastland.
But you see, John Steffelmeyer just said to James Green, James, I have the man pinned on the blocks. Get it inside. Instead, James Green took the perimeter shot. They're not taking good looks. They're not getting good reads in their offense.
James Green. Steffelmeyer the rebound. John Hamilton picks up the foul. 8 seconds left on the clock.
The Waterloo Warriors have really done a nice job in neutralizing the quick forwards in the front line of the Mustangs, giving them only one opportunity after a missed shot. Normally, with the quickness that the Mustangs have on the front line, a missed shot sometimes can be an offense in itself.
Steph has 7. Mike Duarte gets set to come into this ball game for the remainder of this opening half. May not get the chance. Steffelmeyer hits for the second as well. In comes Duarte.
Just giving John Steffelmeyer the extra rest, getting him out. Only 8 seconds to go. The ball is in the right man's hand to take the last shot from three-point land.
Just misses the rebound, Cam Thomas. The buzzer sounds to end a sensational first half of play, a very unexpected first half of play, and Sean Van Koughnett, our halftime player profile, has 24 points. You're watching our University Basketball Game of the Week. Flex at the University of Waterloo and our Game of the Week, and this crowd loving this basketball game here this afternoon. Their Warriors leading by a score of 63-40, and this game and its outcome having all sort of ramifications regarding the postseason starting Tuesday night, and of course what will happen next Friday night either in London or of course in Guelph. Checking out the scoring from the first half, Sean Van Koughnett game high all round with 23. Chris Moore has 12. For Western, James Green with 13. Steffelmeyer Meyer has 8. Peter van den Bovenkamp has 7. Well, I mentioned Sean Van Koughnett with 23 points. We think the outstanding freshman in the conference, if not the entire country. He is the subject of our personal player profile as our halftime show continues. Sean Van Koughnett coming up in just a moment. Van Koughnett has taken the OUAA's West Division by storm. His 20-point-per-game average is amongst the very best in the conference. A tremendous addition to a rebuilding Waterloo program, even more so when one considers the choices available to the Blue Veil grad last spring.
It was a tough decision at the time. I was really strongly considering the United States and also a few universities in Ontario and out east. But after I considered it, it took a long time, actually, a few months. I finally came down to the decision to come to Waterloo, and I'm really happy with it. I don't regret it at all.
There's no place like home is an adage that has suited Van Koughnett just fine. A plethora of Division I scholarships notwithstanding. Waterloo head coach Don McRae was able to provide his prized recruit with that something extra, the opportunity to play and play immediately.
I think they saw in him a great player too, but most of them threatened, I think that's the good word, to redshirt him. And I had great fears that if he went down there, he would be a young fellow to play in a specific position and have to wait for a couple of years and grow on their terms. And my feeling is that he could play 94 feet from end to end right away. And so the whole theme that I tried to present to him was trial by fire, and he sure had it this year.
It's a trial Van Koughnett has navigated smoothly. In fact, the transition from high school hoops to university ball has been hand in glove. A big jump certainly, but one well within his ample talents.
There is a transition there, and I had a bit easier time with it than other high school players, probably because of my experience with the junior national and junior provincial teams during the summer. But, you know, I've had to work really hard, and I've struggled during times this year, and it has been a bit of a transition, but maybe easier than most high school players.
The Warriors have struggled to a 5-8 record in 1991, but Van Koughnet's precise touch has kept Waterloo competitive. At 6'7", he's a proven swingman, whether it be at power guard or at strong forward. And likewise, he's been forced to carry the burden of the Warriors' scoring needs. Not an easy scenario for any rookie.
Sometimes the pressure has gotten to me a bit. You know, there's been games where I played really well, and I've lived up to that pressure, and then there's been other games where I've just not played very well, and sometimes it has affected me. But, you know, I think I've done all right this year so far, considering the responsibility that's been put on me.
In Don McRae's 20 years as head coach, there have been some outstanding basketball players to emerge from the Waterloo program. Names that come to mind include the late Mike Moser, Dr. Jamie Russell, Peter Savage, Rob Freese, and in most recent years, Tom Schneider. It may still be too early to bestow future greatness upon Sean Van Koughnett, but he indeed has the potential to become one of the very best yet.
Well, some of these fellas might be watching and listening, so I'm not going to rank them relative to him, but I know he belongs right in there. I think he's a new type of player, being such a big lad in his particular position, that comparing him to other people who might have played that position and on other teams who play at 6 feet, this fellow can get the shot off against anybody. And teams are playing him with 3 and 4 defenders and playing him different ways. And the comment I make about playing trial by fire, it's certainly happening. He's a great one.
Van Koughnett is considered one of the country's premier first-year players. He could very well provide the OUAA West with its second CIAU rookie prize in 3 years, dating back to Guelph's Tim Mao in 1989.
Well, I never really thought about it that much, but looking at the guys that I played with this summer on the national junior team, the guys I knew would be the best players, first-year players in the country. It's nice to be in that group, and I haven't really thought about it that much, actually.
All-star status is a virtual certainty next week, with Van Koughnett the only freshman expected to crack the coveted squad. An impressive debut for Waterloo's ultimate warrior.
It's been really fun. There's been some down times, but I think I've had a lot of fun this year, and I was really excited coming in this year, and it's lived up to my expectations, and I'm looking forward even more to the years to come.
Sean Van Koughnett of the Waterloo Warriors. We'll return with the national scoreboard in just a moment. Again, along with Peter Barnsley, Sports Information Director for the OUAA. We'll get it started Tuesday night. The Concordia Stingers continue their mastery over the OUAA East.
They end a two-game losing streak. They defeat Bishops 81-74. Dino Perrin scores 20 points. Pierre Tiblin has 22 for Bishops and becomes the Gators' all-time leading scorer.
I'll expect Queens to move into third spot of their division as they down Ryerson 106-75. Doug Lawton leading the Gales with 24 points. And the Western Mustangs on a roll. They have not missed a beat.
68 points in the first half. James Green having a superb year, scored 24. They go away winning that one 106-88 over the Brock Badgers.
And despite a rash of injuries, the McMaster Marauders continue to roll as well. 94-72 Wednesday night over Waterloo. Ed Madronich 25 points. Sean Van Koughnett 27 in a losing cause, and Laurier wins one at home.
Mike Alessio goes out in a memorable note at home. He scores 32 points as they defeat the Windsor Lancers by a score of 98-86.
Pair of victories this week for the Concordia Stingers. Last night in Montreal, 91-78 over the McGill Redmen, and Mike Cohey leading the Stingers with 22 points. In the game Pete saw last night, Guelph and Lakehead.
Guelph wins this one big. They have 11 different people on the scoreboard. Dave Sherwood, again, the leading scorer for the Griffins. He had 16 points. Jeff Byerly had 15 for Lakehead.
Let's take a look at the standings in the OUAA West. Western and Guelph atop the pack at 12-1. McMaster a solid third at 8-5. And all the way down in the basement, the Windsor Lancers destined to go without a victory this season. OUAA Central, Peter.
Laurentian and Toronto have clinched the first two spots. York's in a good spot for third. Queens has 2 games and could catch them. Ryerson's going to finish in the basement.
OUAA East belongs to Concordia at 13-2. They've clinched. Bishops at 9-5, and a disastrous year in the bottom of the standings for the McGill Redmen at 2-12. And Atlantic Conference scores a great week for St. Francis.
Their winning streak continues as they win 86-69 in Antigonish on Tuesday. In that game, Danny McFarland had 20. Richard Bella 28 points last night in the Metro Center as they edged St. Mary's 70-68, and an upset as Acadia loses to Dalhousie 80-66.
The Regina Cougars move into third spot in the G-Pack with an upset victory over Manitoba. Final score was 106-93, and the playoffs have begun in the Canada West.
First game of best of threes, the two favorites won. UBC 115-93 as J.D. Jackson, the most outstanding player in Canada West, had 34 points. Tom Johnson 30 as the Victoria Vikings knock off Alberta 106-83.
OUAA West atop the CIAU top 10, Western and Guelph 1 and 2 respectively, followed by UBC, Vic, St. Francis, Prince Edward Island, Concordia, Brandon, McMaster still in 9th, and I suspect Manitoba should drop out of 10th after this week. 4 games on the OUAA slate tonight. First of all, Lakehead at Guelph. Game time will be 8 o'clock. Later today at 6:15 up in Sudbury, it's Toronto playing Laurentian. At 8 o'clock tonight, Carleton takes on Ryerson at Toronto. Game time will be 8, and at 8 o'clock as well, Ottawa versus York. That game taking place in Toronto as well. A very interesting first half here at the PAC in Waterloo, and I'll be back with the statistical story in just a moment. Statistical story from the first half of play. James Green, we've got him here at 22. That is merely his number. Actually, 13 points, 22 Fahrenheit, 13 Celsius. John Steffelmeyer with 8 points. Peter Van den Bovenkamp with 7. Sean Van Koughnett, of course, game high with 23. Moore with 12, and John Hamilton with 8. Under the glass, let's check it out as well. Brian Doe's an impressive 7. Glenn Eastland off the bench with 6. For Waterloo, Chris Moore with 7. John Hamilton with 3. And Bruce VanLoon with 3 as well. And his Van Looney fan club still in the stands. Out-of-town scoreboard, Brock ensuring themselves of a playoff spot en route at least. Lead Laurier Golden Hawks 43-32 at halftime, and McMaster en route to a 9-5 season, well in front of the Windsor Lancers. So just about set here for the start of the second half, and the question, of course, is can Waterloo hold off the Western Mustangs?
But it's the team stats that are extremely important. The Waterloo Warriors are 24 for 43, a sparkly 56% shooting from the floor. And of course, Western are 16 for 35.
James Green, rebound, back down to Dave Rosebush. Some of these unheralded Warriors coming up with career games here this afternoon. Still 20 minutes of basketball to be played. John Hamilton. Contact inside the key. It's going to come back toward the Mustangs.
Be interesting for the Mustangs now to try to establish their up-tempo game. Get in their up-tempo game, get some points in transition, and see if they can get a little closer and break it down so they can get about 10 or 12 points in the first 7 or 8 minutes.
Eastland, the feed pass, baseline. This is Ormrod, dishes off to Steffelmeyer. Steffelmeyer in a crowd and gets the 2.
Looked like there was 3 seconds in the cleat, but the Mustangs got away with it.
Hamilton. So very important for the Warriors here to score on these offensive possessions early on. Even up with the Mustangs because Western can be lightning quick, explosive offensively. And there's John Hamilton from 3, just what the doctor ordered.
And what a move by Coach McRae to start Hamilton in the basketball game, and he started here in the second half, and he got the trifecta early from the perimeter. Straight man-to-man matchups with Rosebush on Van de Bovenkamp.
Chris Moore inhales the rebound up court. Sean Van Koughnett. Van Koughnett wheels, deals, and hits off for 2.
They haven't missed a beat here in the second half, picking up where they left off with a tremendous scoring from the perimeter.
Sean Van Koughnett with 25. Glenn Eastland given some room. Dishes back off to James Green. Drives baseline. Jump shot. Doesn't get the crier. Rob Baird comes up with the defensive rebound.
Great help on the team concepts for the defense. Green had Van Koughnett beat, but the offside man fell off and stopped the penetration.
Glenn Eastland picks up the foul. That's his 3rd personal. Correction, David Ormerod, our camera crew, had us beaten to it. His 1st personal.
See, there's the help, trying to double up on Van Koughnett when he gets down the side. A little pushing and shoving going on there with Chris Moore and Van de Bovenkamp. A lot of intensity going on that floor.
Robbie Baird. Back outside to Moore. Van Koughnett. Looks, keeps, dishes off. Johnny Hamilton. Back out to Van Koughnett. Eastland watches him closely. Moore in front of Van den Bovenkamp. Good tough defense pays off. Western gets it back.
But there's good motion in the offense with Waterloo, so the scoring will come. Good ball reversal. People were in position. Now the Mustangs must start to convert.
The nation's top-ranked Western Mustangs trail by 26. Make it 24. Steffelmeyer with 4 in the second half. He has 12 overall.
John Steffelmeyer will have to impose his will early here in the second half. Van de Bovenkamp on Chris Moore. That's a good matchup.
Van Koughnett. Oh, he has not missed a step from the first half. Hits for his 4th point.
A small, subtle adjustment by the Mustangs, though. They started Glenn Eastland here in the second half for Brian Doze, and Glenn Eastland is now trying to check Sean Van Koughnett. What a great halftime on Van Koughnett, Paul.
You know, well-spoken young man. I talked to Sean on Wednesday and told him he has the distinction on our Game of the Week of becoming the first ever freshman to be given a halftime profile. On the youngest previous was John Steffelmeyer in 2nd year.
Talking to his father at halftime, too. There's a very proud man.
Ron Van Koughnet's extremely pleased. And can you blame him?
And he's only a freshman.
You know, in the halftime profile, Coach McRae said, hey, go ahead, mention him with the likes of a Mike Moser, a Dr. Jamie Russell, Peter Savage, Rob Fries, Paul Boyce, Schneider. He deserves to be amongst them all. High praise for a player in just his 1st year. The turnaround pass shot for Van den Bovenkamp, and the Western Mustangs chipping away.
And that's what they have to do, make sure if they penetrate, they hit the open player. And, of course, James Green and David Ormerod can do that very well.
Mike Duarte. Back to Hamilton. Hamilton bails outside, passes. Rob Baird has to go to his right to get the ball, but Waterloo does keep it. The pick play by VanLoon. 4 seconds on the shot clock. Saved by Steffelmeyer. Up to David Ormerod. Baird yells out for help. Van den Bovenkamp baseline. Watched by Moore. Chris Moore picks up the foul. Nice move by Peter Van den Bovenkamp, of KG veteran in his 5th year.
Now, Coach McRae needs a timeout here because he's playing too passive behind people on the blocks. You see, Peter Van den Bovenkamp went downtown on the blocks, and Chris Moore played him too passively. You got to get around. You got to get in front of him. You got to get some weak side help. You can't let the experienced players like Van den Bovenkamp post up that easy. Let's listen.
No choices. Don't make this stuff up.
We're counting on each other to play the same way. You run motion, you got your responsibilities. It's not random stuff. Mike's caught up here. He doesn't make a pass, and he stopped, and everybody stands and waits for him to start. How come this has changed all of a sudden? Every time we've taken an inbounds underneath in their 23, they score from the top. Now, how come when we sorted it out, we don't have any leverage on those guys? So you're now three-man, Sean. Where are you? Who's your check? Who am I in for? The three-man. All right? Okay. Now we're jumping back and forth between motion and looping. Let's go.
Always the coach.
But what's important, Paul, there is when you play people in different positions. Van Koughnett plays what we call the off guard. He can play the weak side forward, and they call him by positions, 2 position or 3 position. When you change your position, that also could change your responsibility when you're playing a zone defense when your teams are taking the ball out of bounds. What Coach McRae said there, Paul, is he tried to emphasize special teams in basketball. That's extremely important. Don't give them any easy baskets.
Great support staff for Coach McRae as well. Tom Keyswater, Mike Kilpatrick, Tom Schneider.
Tommy Keyswater, you talk about a bomber from three-point land. He could do it as well as anyone. A perimeter shooter here for the Warriors in years past.
Mike Kilpatrick, of course, one of the key members of the Laurier Golden Hawks in the early 70s to win a national championship. Bob Bain, also a member of that team. Bain, of course, the head coach of the York Yeomen. Tom Schneider, All-Canadian 3 years ago here for the Waterloo Warriors. So bench strength in terms of coaching at Waterloo, and Peter Vanton Bovenkamp. And this player's come to play. He has 12.
I get the feeling that the Warriors are starting to hang on here a little bit. They can't even attempt to start playing the clock. There's just too much time. You've got to get into your motion.
Van Koughnett goes up with a shot.
Steve King, number 12 now, is checking Van Koughnett. So they've had Eastland to start the half. Now they've got Steve King.
And Jason Poag gets set to come into this ball game as he'll replace Rob Baird.
Steve King will create a lot of action defensively. He's very active. He'll make you put the ball on the floor, get you to put your head down so that you can't see the open player in the passing game.
Dave Rosebush back in as well. With Jason Poag, you get a great passer. He too an on-court quarterback with the potential of hitting from three-point range as well. And always coaching Don McRae. Talking with Cam Thomas.
Van Koughnett is a shooter. Doesn't matter if it's from the perimeter, on the drive, or from the charity stripe. Start of the program. David Omerod, we said, was the creator, and that's his strength to this Mustang team. He will create action by the penetration. He'll draw the defense and then dish off to people like Brian Doze and Peter Van de Bovenkamp.
The difference is 23. Omerod puts it up, comes up short, second chance, bails back outside. Steve King from three-point range, and he hits. Here come these Mustangs. You can't corral them forever.
And here comes the bench. We said they were strong. And Coach Boydell can go to anyone on that bench and get quality time.
Van Koughnett with 29, passes off. In the land of the Giants was Jason Poag. Goes out of bounds, and it's going to remain with Waterloo.
Now, Chris Moore in the first half had an outstanding shooting from the floor. He was 5 for 11 and 1 for 1 from the foul line. He's got to pick up the slack here. He had 5 assists, so he's got to get himself involved here in the second half.
Poag around the horn to Van Koughnett, off the pass. Up and over. Aaron Kaya comes up with the basketball. This is James Green. He's in amongst the swarm of gold shirts and still hits, and that is why he'll likely be a first-team All-Star again in 1991.
Quickness in transition. Great finish.
James' first deuce of the second half. He is 15. 72-54.
Warriors are hanging on to the ball too long. They've got to either make their cuts or go to the basket. Chris Moore goes to the basket.
And it isn't happening here for Waterloo. Foul is going to be against Dave Rosebush. 72-54. Still 14 minutes and 32 seconds to play in regulation.
But they've got it down to under 20. They want to be around at the end. They want to have it within 6 or 7 points. If they can get it within 6 or 7 points with about 3 minutes to go, Paul, they'll have a chance.
Get your bags packed for London next weekend. Inside, James Green.
Sorry, the defense letting the Waterloo Warriors down. They're not as aggressive. They're not as active. They're not playing the big D like in the first half.
Sean Van Koughnett drives the baseline. One-on-one, he's as dangerous as anybody. Gets a chance to convert for 3.
But that's all right, and he can keep them in the game and keep the lead by those drives. But somewhere here in the second half, people are going to have to help him out to try to do some scoring. This young man can't do it all himself.
Van Koughnett with 31, make it 32 points. Peter Barnsley tells us the OUAA record for scoring in a single game is 50 points. We'll find out as to who set that mark.
Jason Poag on James Green. Not quick enough for him.
James Green, top of the key, puts it up. That basket is going to count. Jason Poag, you're right, picks up the foul.
Not quick enough to handle James Green in the penetration game.
13 minutes and 54 seconds to play in regulation. The Western Mustangs have cut down the deficit 75-56 on our game of the week.
Know that the Mustangs had a pretty good shooting half. They had good individual stats from the floor and shooting, but their defense let them down. And if they're going to get back into the basketball game and have a chance of winning this game, they have to do it defensively. They've got to bring their defense up a notch.
James Green with 20. Jason Poag inside to Rosebush. He'll take his chances on Steffelmeyer. Big John wins that battle. And Rosebush assessed the foul.
Rosebush missed the easy chip shot, picks up his 4th foul, and after the miss, he went over the back. You can't give the Mustangs the opportunity to get back into the basketball game with the clock stopped. It's a one-on-one, Peter Barnsley tells us, already with 13 minutes and 38 seconds to go here in the second half. Cardinal sin in basketball. When you want a team to come back, don't let them come back from the foul line because the clock is stopped.
John Steffelmeyer averaging 19.5 points per game. That is second best in the conference. Has 13 and 5 in the second half.
Of course, John Steffelmeyer will do a solid job on the boards, both offensively and defensively.
Steffelmeyer with 14, fifth-year player from Stanford Collegiate, Niagara Falls. Played his high school basketball under head coach Bob Cool. John Hamilton. And I'll tell you here, West, the Waterloo Warriors cannot buy a hoop. Back come the Western Mustangs. Stephen King up and off the rim. Ball goes out of bounds despite the efforts of Brian Doze, and it'll be Warrior basketball.
But the wrong time to take the outside three-point shot. The Mustangs were having a run, and they're preventing the Warriors from getting the second and third opportunity off the glass. They have to be more selective. Get it inside. You get the right people handling the ball, and shot selection is important.
Van Koughnett, turnaround jump shot on Steve King. Big fella has 32 points.
Too much height advantage. Van Koughnett. Steve King does not have the height to handle Van Koughnett inside.
77-61. Feed pass inside for Doze. Back out to Steffelmeyer. Bounce and up and in. Just like that. 77-63, and Steph has 16.
You're seeing two of the classic shooters from the perimeter. John Steffelmeyer and Sean Van Koughnett. Great touch with the basketball.
Van Koughnett from three-point range. He hit from Cambridge.
And he doesn't even crack a smile.
Van Koughnett with 35, and there's James Green, matches the three.
But where's the defense from the Warriors? They've got to get on these shooters. They can't let people just stop and pop.
VanLoon out of his element in the backcourt. Here dishes off to Hamilton. Kyle works hard on Hamilton.
But you see the defense from the Mustangs.
In and out. Who's got the rebound? It's Aaron Kaya. Good hard hustle underneath the defensive glass. The Stangs on point. Steve King, baseline to Doze. Top of the key is Kaya. The engineering student drives inside, dishes off to Steffelmeyer, who picks up the foul. and that's against Bruce VanLoon.
And they can bring it within 12 points. Now remember, they had 23-point lead at halftime. They've got it within 12, so they made up 11 points, and that's what they had to do in half of the second half with 11:51 to go.
4 fouls for Bruce VanLoon. Number 32, known here as Boops on campus, heads to the bench. And Steffelmeyer silently has hit for 16 points, getting it done efficiently as well. Now 17.
And there's critical times in a basketball game when you're making up that many points. The first critical point was 18, to get it with 18. And now, if they can get it 10 or under, you're going to see the Mustangs come alive.
Steffelmeyer with 18. Van Koughnett goes to the bench. Coach McRae resting him for the stretch run. They're going to need the big guy. Chris Moore to Hamilton. Hamilton is up. Doesn't get the hoop, and here's the difference in the second half. Waterloo dominated under the boards, have not done so here in the second. Steffelmeyer is short. Second chance, however. He follows up for 2 more. John with 20.
Why John Steffelmeyer is the MVP in Canada last year, because he can do it all. He just doesn't score from the perimeter. He scores on second opportunity shots and in transition. You've got to keep John Steffelmeyer off the glass. Coach McRae needs a timeout. They're within 10.
And despite the onrush of things for Waterloo, they still have to realize they are winning. But let's listen into Craig Boydell of the Western Mustangs.
Goal 2 we've got it down to 10 points. Okay? We have to keep the pressure up on defense. There's no scramble here. We're just playing it the same as we normally do. Okay? Offensively, we're still running secondary to inside. We're looking for quick kick-arounds and penetration. We want to get it to the 10 foul, get the double foul. If we stay disciplined now, we're right in the ball game. There's no reason to be in any more of a rush than we were at the beginning of the half. Okay? Any questions?
Great thing there, Paul, by Coach Boydell, and that is he needs discipline now. Don't rush anything. They're within 10. They know they have the firepower. They know that they have the consistency for any of the 5 to score, and if they can get in transition and get some easy points off the fast break, they'll be in great shape. On the other side, the Warriors have to bring it up a notch defensively. They're going to have to challenge the Mustangs on the perimeter.
We've been blessed with outstanding basketball in the game of the week this season, Wes. Thank Peter Barnsley for assisting us in picking our games of the week as well. But we're going to have a great schedule again next year when we take a look at the OUAA West. It just gets better and better. And Craig Boydell talking with Glenn Eastland moments ago. A look at head coach Don McRae.
Now, Robbie Baird took charge to start the basketball game from the point guard position. He's got to do it now. Although we've got 10 minutes to go, we're almost at crunch time for the Warriors. They've got to get something together here.
Hamilton to Moore. Mike Duarte also in this contest here for Waterloo. 2 seconds on the shot clock as Duarte picks it up. Rebound to Steffelmeyer. James Green, top of the paint. Stops, pumps, and hits.
You can see the confidence on the Mustangs. They're in the ball game down 8, and look out, because once you got it under 10 and they play the tough defense and get in transition, the game's over. Coach McRae's got to make some subs, Paul.
James Green last with 25. Rosebush and VanLoon getting set to come back into this ball game for Waterloo, and both with 4 fouls apiece. Pushing off, Cam Thomas.
VanLoon, Rosebush, and Van Koughnett are coming back into the basketball game. They are in trouble. They have to get that rhythm and tempo back, but they have to do it defensively. They're hanging on, and they started hanging on at about the 15-minute mark. Even though they were up a bundle, you can't hang on in basketball. Well, not with a 30-second clock. You got to play it straight up all the time.
Cam Thomas on the Waterloo bench, first-year player. Minutes, 25 seconds to play. The Western Mustangs have caught stride here in the second half.
But in basketball, it takes a lot out of a team to come back from 23 points. By the time you get it so close, you're so tired trying to bring it back. That's not the case with the Mustangs because they have the bench. They can go 8 or 9 and play with a lot of consistent. You talk about Eastland and King and Uhas, these people coming off the bench. So because of the bench, they're not going to get tired in bringing the score back.
Second half, Western has outscored the Waterloo Warriors by a count of 33-17. An amazing turn of events here. In fact, the first half was amazing. Waterloo came out gunning, sustained that pressure, but had lost it going to the dressing room at halftime. John Steffelmeyer with 22 points. 14 of those coming here in the second half.
But you knew it was just a matter of time until the Mustangs got on track and really wanted to win this basketball game. But I didn't think the Warriors would collapse defensively like they have.
The scoring burden placed squarely on the shoulders of Waterloo's Sean Van Koughnett. VanLoon to Mike Duarte. Duarte from the baseline to Rob Baird. Baird around to Omrod and over to Duarte. 3 seconds on the shot clock. Going to have to put it up, and it's going to have to go to Rosebush. They don't do it. And the Western Mustangs get it done defensively.
They're taking some time off the clock, but they have to be sure that when they get it down within 10 seconds of the shot clock, that they get a quality shot, a good percentage shot. Now they have to play the defense.
Peter Van Bovenkamp off the pass. The rebound, Brian Doe's stolen from Mike Duarte. That was a big defensive play.
A huge defensive play. When you're an offensive rebounder, you can't bring the ball down below the waist, because you do, then you're only at the guard's level.
Van Koughnett. Glenn Eastland. That's his third personal.
Chris Moore's coming back into the basketball game. Chris Moore's got to get involved. He played really superb in the first half. He gave a lot of support, getting the stick-back points, cleaning the glass on the defense. But now it's crunch time for Chris Moore.
Van Koughnett with 36, and from the line, Waterloo can ill afford to miss any of these shots.
The key to the game is intensity. And the Warriors have to play with a lot of intensity defensively and then try to get the good shot offensively.
Omrod doesn't get the shot, but he'll go to the line. No, he does not. It's going to come back the other way.
Two very important plays in the last two trips down the court. Duarte got that rebound off of Brian Doe's, and then they scored a couple from the foul line, and then the next time David Omrod gets an offensive charge ball. You can't do things like that and expect to win a basketball game.
Guy Cipriani felt that Rob Baird held position. Chris Moore drives on. Doe's goes up and was hit by Peter Van Bovenkamp as he went up with a shot.
But you see, Chris Moore is trying to take charge. He's trying to contribute on the score sheet. Makes the drive to the baseline. Now here's a little spin, a little shake and bake, and going up strongly. Gets fouled and will go to the foul line. The Warriors must convert from the foul line. 68% from the foul line for the season for the Warriors. Not great foul shooting, but might be enough.
Correction, 14 points.
Now the Mustangs must play some good offense here. Move without the basketball. Get yourself open.
The Warriors have stemmed the purple tide, only temporarily, however. James Green draws the foul. There are very few in this league quicker than James Green, perhaps Darren Thomas.
And the interior defense have to stop the penetration. See, they tried to collapse to stop James Green to penetrating. If you can stop a player like James Green from penetrating, you can take a lot of the game away from the Mustangs. Both teams are stroking it from the foul line.
James Green with 27, 84, 76. 8 minutes, 59 seconds to play in regulation as Steve King steps into the game. Replaces James Green, who heads to the bench. He'll be back for the final 4 to 5 minutes of this contest.
Eastland's on Van Koughnett.
Van Koughnett stole it, lost the ball. Dave Omron has it, goes down the other side, passes off. Western will keep possession.
You've got to be careful of David Omron. He'll pick you clean. He left his offensive man and went over and double teamed and stole the basketball. He's very quick on defense.
Outside, Glenn Eastland to Omron.
2-3 zone.
Steve King off the pass, and he hits. So this is where the Western Mustangs have been so successful. A bench that can score. That was for 3 points.
And they're within 5.
Steve King has 6, courtesy of 2 3-point shots. 84-79. Rob Baird from the baseline. Doesn't get it. VanLoon with the key rebound inside.
The arrow favors the Waterloo Warriors.
Good hustle by VanLoon.
But the key matchups now, very important at the 8-minute mark. Van de Bovenkamp is on Chris Moore.
Here's the setup. Van Koughnett up and over. Rebound. Came down to Baird. Stephen King picks up the foul.
Robbie Baird has impressed me today. He's hustled very well. He's led. He set the table. Good leadership from setting the offense, and now he's going to the offensive glass. The little people are starting to dominate. Robbie Baird on the Warriors, and of course Steve King for the Mustangs there, hitting that 3-point play to bring him within 5.
Steve, you got shoot it.
Tough miss. Now Western with a chance to further cut into this deficit. Trailed at the half, 63-40. The difference now is 5, 84-79, just under 8 minutes to play.
Chris Moore's on Steffelmeyer.
Steffelmeyer goes out and in, rejected there by Van Koughnett. The pass complete to Van den Bovenkamp. We've got the all-Dutch team out here this afternoon. Omron beats off. Steffelmeyer doesn't get the hoop. Van Koughnett gets the rebound. Talk about a power guard. This kid can also play inside. And in terms of international basketball, as soon as he fills out, he's going to be a natural.
There's a term in sport, and that is when you see an athlete that does not want to lose. Sean Van Koughnett is that type of athlete. He does not want to lose this basketball game.
Just short. But just short enough for the Mustangs, who get to bring it back up, 84-79. Eastland inside. They've been working this all day long to Steffelmeyer. Doesn't work there. VanLoon brings it back down and slows up the tempo.
But it was Van Koughnett. Look at, he's tired, but it was Van Koughnett that came over and helped on the defense, on the double team.
Chris Moore couldn't control Steve King. Does he have the free one? Lays up off the glass for 2. Back within 3. 84-81.
I would say at this point of the basketball game, the Warriors are a little bit more tired than the Western Mustangs because of the bench.
Duarte. Key offensive series here for Waterloo. Would dearly love to score. Mustangs, however, in sync in the second half. 6 seconds left on the shot clock. Van Koughnett takes care of that from the baseline.
A fadeaway jump shot, and he still makes it because he's got great position, but he is very, very tired. And he's checking Eastland. It'd be wise to go to Eastland right there. You see Van Koughnett is very, very tired.
The Tandy diaper, as Wes Hicks likes to call him, is 39. Oh, and there's Dave Homerock from 3-point range.
And we're within 2 with 5:49 to go.
86-84. Dave Homerock with 7 points. 3 here in the second half, coming courtesy of that bucket. Rob Baird drives baseline, is way short. Foul against Bruce VanLoon, so the Waterloo Warriors in trouble. 5 minutes, 36 seconds to play in regulation. Head coach Don McRae has to regroup. It's 86-84 on our University Basketball Game of the Week. in common with Sarah Lee, both famous for their turnovers. Not the case here in the second half, Wes.
Western have not turned the basketball over, and the Waterloo Warriors have turned the ball over 6 times, and at least 3 of the 6 have led directly to score, so they have converted off the turnovers. But what the Warriors have to do going into this basketball game, they could have said to themselves, hey guys, if we can be up 2 or up 4 with 5 minutes to go in the game, I think we have a chance to win it. That's what they have to do now. They have to think in those terms. They cannot think in terms, Paul, that they've blown a 23-point lead, because that will get them down, and they'll worry more about blowing the lead than winning the basketball game. So they've got to concentrate and saying, hey guys, we're tied, or we're only up 1 or 2 with 5 to go. We can win this basketball game.
86-85. Steffelmeyer with an opportunity to tie it up. And a commanding, courageous comeback by the Western Mustangs. John Steffelmeyer has 24. We're tied up at 86. And the Western Mustangs have made up a 23-point deficit from halftime. Chris Moore. The rebound, Mike Duarte. He is a hustler. Beat James Green to the ball, and Moore goes down on that left knee. Appears to be in some degree of pain in behind the huddle. Let's see what happened.
But what's interesting here is if he can't shoot the foul shots and he goes out, you know that Van Koughnet's on the bench. Van Koughnett could come in and shoot the foul shots, and I think Van Koughnet's a little better foul shooter than Mike Duarte. They might want to take a look at this. Here he comes.
You called it.
Oh boy, I like to do a little coaching as well. See, Coach McRae is saying, come on off, come on off. Now, they're not doing this on purpose. Don't misread me here. There's no question that Mike Duarte went over on his ankle. But it's going to be to the plus here, because Sean Van Koughnett is coming in and will shoot the foul shots.
Well, that baby face and the haircut, you've called him the dandy diaper. I like Sean Van Cassidy. Yeah, Peter Barnsley telling us that if the foul shots are made, Duarte gets the points. But the bottom line, as far as Don McRae, is not who gets them, but whether they go in or not. 40 points even for Van Koughnett.
Here to the end of the basketball game, the Warriors must challenge the jump shot when the Mustangs take it from the perimeter. They must come out and challenge the jump shot. The Mustangs have too good a shooters from the perimeter not to come out and challenge.
These statistics here today, I suspect Sean Van Koughnett is going to win the scoring championship in his freshman season in the OUAA West. However, John Steffelmeyer is giving him a run for his money. We're tied up at 88. The staff has 26, Wes, and Sean has 41.
John Steffelmeyer is a prime-time basketball player. He wants the basketball when we get down at crunch time late in the game.
Moore's shot doesn't go, and the Mustangs here with an opportunity to take the lead. They have not led in this ball game at all. Omrod looks inside for Doze. Back out to Green quickly around the horn. This is Steffelmeyer. Eastland outside. Omrod off the pass. Steffelmeyer puts it up and out. Rebound comes down to Moore. The Waterloo Warriors.
Both rims look like they've got the lid on. They're going in and out.
Vaseline rims. Van Koughnett pumps and hits for 2.
Some players shoot better off a dribble than off a pass, and I think Van Koughnett shoots better off a dribble when he's got the basketball. But Coach McRae got him a little rest. Now he's back into the game.
Basket is going to count, and James Green will go to the line with an opportunity to put his team in front.
Now it's a chess game. Now we look for the big M&Ms, the mismatches. James Green is taken on the freshman Van Koughnett. James Green is a little quicker than Van Koughnett. So Coach McRae's got some decisions to make. Who's going to check the outstanding guard in James Green, and who will go inside on Brian Doze and Peter Van de Bovenkamp.
Do you believe it? Who wants to win this basketball game? James Green, we thank you for keeping it close. 90-90. We're all tied up, and the Mustangs give up an opportunity to take their first lead of this contest. From three-point range, Van Koughnett follows up with the rebound and gets the tip.
What did I say about a player that doesn't want to lose a basketball game? Fouls a shot. James Green now on the other side does not have the side to take Van Koughnett. What a matchup between those two.
James Green matches right back up. He has 31. Van Koughnett has 43.
There's your match again. Green on Van Koughnett.
To Baird. Inside. Van Koughnett turns around. It's going to come off the rim. Rebound back up to Baird. Shot clock resets. 3 minutes, 8 seconds to play in this ball game. 92 all. It'd be something to see a pair of teams go over 100 points. I'd have to think they'd be close to some sort of record. John Hamilton, oh, and he hits, and that's a three-point play, 95-92.
What patience from the Warriors, and they got it to the offside man, cutting off the screen on the weak side, and Hamilton hits for 3.
His third trifecta. Offensive foul.
No, they called it on Van Koughnett. James Green
right.
on the penetration, and Sean can't believe it. Close call, but Foxcroft and Cipriani were right on the call. Good call.
Third personal for Sean Van Koughnett with 2 minutes, 41 seconds to play. 95-92 Waterloo. For the Mustangs, James Green has 31. John Steffelmeyer with 26. Van Koughnett 43 for Waterloo. And Chris Moore with 14. John Hamilton has 14 as well. A couple of costly misses here from the free throw line by James Green.
The Warriors are trying to get their checks. Coach McCray on the sidelines is walking up and down, making sure that everybody's got their check. James Green is out of character from the foul line. He is normally a 75 to 80% foul shooter.
Cam Thomas over to Hamilton, and John Hamilton hits for his fourth three-pointer of this ball game. And this is what you call gut check time, and we're getting it from Waterloo.
And it is gut check time, but what a great move by Coach McCray to start this basketball game. He started John Hamilton. He had a feeling that John Hamilton was ready to play, and he has played just superbly here, especially shooting from the perimeter. And now you see Coach Boydell talking to his players. He's got to make some decisions because we've got about 2.5 to go. And the Waterloo Warriors are up 6. There's VanLoon's fans. They're here, and they want the Warriors to win. What a place ball to play a game of basketball.
13 three-point shots have gone in for the Waterloo Warriors. That is 39 points, and that has really allowed Waterloo to stay in front of this ball game.
Now, when I was coaching for the McMaster Marauders coming into this gym, this is the time where you've got to really have your players focused. Let's hear Don.
Pop quicker, don't go as deep. On the stacks. You run the zippers in one side and the other. All right, go.
It just goes to show you that you can't key on one basketball player. They're really keying on Van Koughnett, and John Hamilton is coming off the weak side screens, and if he's got the shot, he's taking it, and it's going in.
Well, my calculator's gone for a fizz. Official count for Sean Van Koughnett, 47 points. Single game OUAA record is 50. James Green passes off. Steffelmeyer, nice play to convert off the glass for 2, and John has 28.
Robert Baird has played very well for the Warriors from that point guard position. He's got a very tough defensive man in Omeron.
Peter Barnsley tells us David Coulthard from the York Yeoman back in the early 80s with that record. James Green has it, goes in. Chris Moore gets the foul. 98-94. The Mustangs with a chance to cut it back to 2. And 1:52 left on the clock. And here is the scramble inside the paint.
But what's important, our players are doing, and their strength's coming out with Green penetrating.
1 minute, 52 seconds to play. 98-94, Waterloo on our game of the week. Pending perhaps a major upset here in the 1991 CIAU season. The top-ranked Western Mustangs under the guidance of head coach Craig Boydell in position perhaps to lose to a 5-8 basketball team, a team in the midst of a rebuilding process, but anything can happen given University athletics. And James Green has missed 3 foul shots in the last 4 in a row, actually.
But the fans here are on the edge of their seats, but I guarantee you there's some people back in Guelph that are on the edge of their seats as well, and that's the Guelph Griffins, because if the Mustangs lose, the Griffins get first place and home court for the Final Four for the conference championship. We're into QT time now, quality time, and let's see who the primetime players are.
I know Coach Darling is chomping on a towel at home watching this ball game right now.
I think the Warriors got a bit of a break on the bounce pass across court.
Steve Foxcroft has been in this game. That normally well-adorned coiffure is out of touch right now, but Steve's been busy business-wise. He just got back from Atlanta late last night. 1 minute, 33 seconds and counting. 98-95 Waterloo. 6 seconds on the shot clock. Duarte's going to take it inside, rejected by Stephelmeyer. James Green across midcourt. Foul, Duarte.
And that's the wrong thing to do, again, because the Mustangs will go to the foul line and try to score with the clock stop. When you're up 3, you want to try to keep the clock going. And if it's an attempt, and that was a very poor attempt at a steal. You don't hit people way out on the perimeter. If you're going to take a foul, you take the banging foul inside to prevent the easy deuce.
James says finally. 98-96.
James Green's comfort zone hasn't been on the foul line.
No, sir.
He's 1 for 6 from the foul line here in the last 4 minutes. Normally, his comfort zone is the foul line.
You know, despite such, still has 32 points. Chris Moore lays up the right-hand shot off the glass. 100-96.
4 points with 1 minute and 3 to go, so there's really 2 possessions or 3 possessions. Omerod scores on the penetration. This is the possession for the Warriors.
52 seconds. The clock is counting down. Timeout called by the Waterloo Warriors. 5 seconds on the shot clock. Rob Baird looked and lost it. Chance to tie this ball game. Omerod goes up and going to make him go to the line to tie it.
25 seconds. The Mustangs will probably have to foul if they don't get the quick steal. Eastland's in for Brian Doze. They want smaller people on the floor.
Hits for 1 of 2, 100-99. Omerod, 10 points in this ball game, 23 seconds left, and expect a foul soon. Van Koughnett trying to beat the press. In traffic, and there's Vanton Bowman show today. David Coulthard's been a halftime profile as well. 102-99. It is now or never for the Western Mustangs if they want to clinch the division title. They'll need a 3-point play to tie it. David Omerod back outside. Vanton Bowman to Omerod. 4 seconds, 3 seconds, puts it up from 2-point range. Follows up. It's not going to happen. The buzzer sounds, and a major upset at the University of Waterloo. The Warriors have defeated the nation's top-ranked Western Mustangs 102-99, and as a result, the Guelph Griffins with an opportunity to clinch first place on home court this evening.
It's just amazing because it comes down to the last game in the season, and the Mustangs needed a win, and they came in the den of the Warriors, and the Warriors played so well. Great game plan, and they hung on. They lost their 23-point lead and hung on at the end, and that Dandy Diaper, the super freshman, hits 2 from the foul line to ice the game.
Sean Van Koughnett with 48 points is our player of the game. We'll be back with some final thoughts and an interview with our player of the game in just a moment. Defy the odds and upset the top-ranked Western Mustangs 102-99 as the Mustangs hit the deep freeze in terms of the charity stripe late in the ball game. Our player of the game, Sean Van Koughnett, no fewer than 5 3-point plays, 49 points on the day, just 1 short of the all-time OUAA record. We'll be back to talk with Sean in just a moment as our halftime show and game continues. Stay with us, please. Waterloo Warriors pictures around the court. There's one, and I've got one as well. The player of the game from Waterloo, Sean Van Koughnett, 49 points. Congratulations. There's talk in Guelph right now they're retiring your jersey.
Well, I didn't really want to help Guelph out, but it was a good victory, and it helps us going into the playoffs.
It sure does. Briefly, let's talk about the second half. What did Coach McRae say to you people? You knew Western was going to come back with vengeance.
We knew that, you know, they're ranked, whatever, in the #1 in Canada or in the top 2 in Canada, and he just told us that we had to keep on playing tough defense and make sure that we were running our offense properly with good movement, and just to play hard, and that's what we did, and we kept our composure at the end and finally won.
Satisfying victory. Best of luck Tuesday, and who knows, we may see you next week wherever we're going to be.
I hope so. Thanks a lot.
Player of the game, Sean Van Koughnett with 49 points. Just a reminder, next week we'll have the OUAA West Division Championship. It'll either be in London, but all indications point toward the University of Guelph for a game Saturday afternoon at 2 o'clock. I'll be back with some final thoughts in just a moment. In our game of the week, the Guelph Griffins with a victory tonight.